5, 6, 7, 8.
Sebastian. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Gilmore to Say with Tara and Haley. I'm Tara. This is Haley. Hi, Haley.
Hi, Tara. Did you forget?
No, I started to say it and it almost sounded like I had phlegm in my throat when I said it. So I didn't want to do that to our listeners.
Oh, okay.
So I said it again.
Okay. Because you stopped in the middle of it and I was like,
are you okay?
Is she pulling a Haley over here?
No. I just didn't want to be like,
Yeah.
I want to create
gotcha.
that experience for our friends at home.
Want to give the best experience for our friends at home. Can I tell you something funny?
Tell me.
That our friends at home will experience next week is that we were talking about how the last couple episodes have been watching the flowers behind me die.
Mm-hmm.
But this episode is recorded after we recorded next week's episode. So I have new flowers.
But next week, we're going to go back to the dead ones.
We're going to go back to the dead ones.
Hilarious.
So,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it was kind of sad, but aren't they beautiful?
They are beautiful. I meant to comment on them earlier. They're really beautiful.
They were giving Yellow Daisy vibes. So I changed all my books. I changed everything back here to give
sunny,
1,000 Yellow Daisies,
springy.
Spring, sun.
I love it.
Yes.
That's really
As
cool.
we have a freeze warning right now.
I was going to say, it is a tad chilly, but
it's a touch chilly. I will
spring
admit.
is about to be springing. So I love the look. But yes, next week, if you're watching us on YouTube, it is going to go back to...
It was going to go back to the dead ones.
To the dead ones. I am in a new location. If you are watching us on YouTube, I'm in my living room.
You are?
Yes. For reasons that I don't feel like talking about right now, but it does include my upstairs neighbors.
That's so New York of you.
It is so New York
Speaking
of me.
because Sebastian was talking about just living in Sex in the City. I was like, that's not very Sex in the City to have upstairs neighbors that just are basically percussive elephants.
Yeah. Percussive elephants is such a great way to describe them. Wow. That's so real. But speaking of Sebastian, you mentioned our friend Sebastian. He's on the show with us today. A lot of you know him from TikTok and Instagram Reels because he has a podcast called Loud About Nothing. And he was spending a little bit of time with his co-host talking about Gilmore Girls. And we got just all of the DMs, flooded with the DMs.
Because he's so passionate. And I feel like it's one thing to be talking about Gilmore Girls and another to bring forth this joy and passion that he did to talk about our favorite thing. And we're like, have to have him on.
We had to have him on. And I just adore him. I know last week we had Anne Hood and I was like, oh, I fell in love with Anne Hood. And then today I'm like, oh, I fell in love with Sebastian. I'm just falling in love head over heels with our guests. They're just the best.
Truly. And I think that part of both Anne and Sebastian is they came to us via Gilmore Girls. We knew they liked Gilmore Girls, but I didn't realize the depth of what it meant to them, hearing Sebastian's history with the show and just how much he adores the world that Gilmore Girls exists in. Mm-hmm. I was very surprised at the depth of his love, admittedly. And it wasn't that I was thought that he was going to hate it or that he was going to feel very shallow about it, but I didn't realize that he feels as deeply as we do about the show. And I was just so pleasantly surprised by how much joy he had for it.
And I can't wait for you guys to hear it. I mean, he just has such really authentic opinions about this show.
Yes.
You can tell, like Haley said, how much he loves the show. And God, he's so funny. He is funny as hell.
And I love his perspective on podcasts too, that he wanted to bring something to podcasting he talks about that it's boring activities that you're doing and trying to create some positivity around it. So he just wants to talk about the things that he loves, which, I resonated with because that's all I want to do is just talk about all the things that I love. Yeah. That's what we're doing here is just maybe we're roasting things sometimes, but it's all out of love, out of the joy, the silliness of
it's true.
Not taking things too seriously. And I just feel like he is so perfectly on the same page as us on a lot of things. Completely. And differing on opinions on other things.
Yeah. But not only does he share a lot of his thoughts, his opinions, his feelings, but we are also really excited because Haley and I thought ahead this time when it comes to our madness bracket. As you may recall, back in 2023, Haley and I did a May Madness bracket where we were on a quest to find the best man of Gilmore Girls. And we Haley famously chose Alex. I was there. I don't remember how much I participated in choosing him, but I remember building it for you. But March Madness is upon us, the true March Madness. It had passed us by the time we had this idea to do a bracket, but we actually decided to do it at an appropriate time for March Madness to be discussed and talked about. It's a hot topic right now.
Exactly.
And so we thought it would be really fun to bring Sebastian in to play this game and to share his thoughts on who the best man of Gilmore Girls is.
And then hear his thoughts
on your thoughts.
On our bracket. It's a great time. This is one of my favorite episodes we've done.
Honestly, we just laughed the whole time, and he said it himself. He had a smile on his face the whole time, and us too. We can't deny that. Yeah. So if you're not with us on YouTube, I feel like you should be, at least for the bracket part, because we do have a visual component.
And the rest of it to confirm that there was a lot of smiling to be had.
There was so much smiling. It's so true. So without further ado, here's our friend Sebastian. Sebastian, welcome to Gilmore to Say. We are so happy to have you. This has been months in the making. We love that you're here, and we love that you're wearing your Luke sweatshirt.
I'm so excited. I don't get to talk to about Gilmore Girls anywhere. This is
awesome. except your podcast a little bit. I love that you've been educating your podcast partner.
Because that's how we found you.
Yeah.
I know, but he never watched the show. So
seriously?
He never watched. And here's the thing. I don't beg people, I can't beg. If he wants to meet me where I'm at, he could meet me, but I'm not begging him to watch the greatest show of all time.
No.
Yeah.
That's how you got to do it. You got to let people do it on their own. We can tell you about it. We can lead you to the water, but we can't make you drink,
And this is actually, my mom bought me this for Christmas.
Oh my God.
Really?
Mom.
Oh my gosh, Mom.
I love that so much. So for our listeners at home, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do? We know you have a podcast, but tell us a little bit about that.
I'm Sebastian. I'm from New York. I'm always from New York. I love that you wearing your New York sweatshirt. Let's go.
Yes. You're from Staten Island, right?
Staten Island, but I live in Brooklyn now.
Cool.
So that's amazing. And I'm a comedian. I'm an improviser. I'm an actor. I have a podcast called Loud About Nothing, where we explore a lot of topics. I get a lot of my feelings out. I get to express positivity and talk about things that I'm obsessed with that make me feel great. So with my co-host Robbie Nunez, everyone should go check that out. And what's so nice is I wanted to always do a podcast. I always think people absorb podcasts and they want to listen to something as they do boring activities, like they're doing their dishes, they're driving their car. I always want to put out a podcast about things that make me feel good. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not bring up the Gilmore Girls on the podcast.
Because what else makes you feel better than Gilmore Girls?
Oh, it's so nice.
It's so good.
Nice. And if you haven't seen, everyone should go watch the movie Honora. I'm in the movie Honora.
No way.
Academy Award winner Honora.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I had my whole family over to celebrate. We had an Oscar party at my house.
Wait, that's so cool.
I had no idea.
Sebastian, that's such a casual drop.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing that for a few years.
Can you tell us more about that? I know we're here talking about Gilmore Girls, but I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Of course. Sean Baker, the director of Honora, won the most Academy Awards out of any person for a single project, and that just happened this weekend. And he actually found me online through posting my podcast clips.
No way.
You're joking. That's so cool.
That's huge.
That's also how we found you.
I know.
We will not.
You are Sean Baker.
This is not Oscar winning.
That's so cool.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
I have an agent. I've been in other stuff as an actor and stuff like that. So I had to audition and stuff. But then I got to be a part of the project, and it was such an amazing experience because I'm an improviser, and I've been on set before where you have to be very word perfect with the lines. But he was so playful. He wanted the actors to have fun with each other, feed off each other's energies and stuff like that. And I got to do a really fun scene that had a little bit of action in it. So that was really exciting.
Oh, I can't wait. I haven't seen the film yet, but I can't wait to watch it now that I know that you're in it. That's just going to make me so happy.
I actually can't believe it either.
Crazy.
I'm beside myself.
I truly, what a beautiful flex. I'm obsessed with that. So tell us a little bit about your background and your history with Gilmore Girls, your relationship with the show. When did you start watching? When did you get hooked?
Okay, I have two sisters, an older sister and I have a twin sister. So,
cool.
So for Christmas, we would get DVDs, and for the Christmas break, we like just binge watch shows. So my sisters, I would get like video games and stuff more than that, and they would get a lot of box sets. And of course, they got the box set for Gilmore Girls. And I vividly remember being in like a pull-out bed in front of the TV during like the Christmas break, and me and both my sisters would be like in the bed, belly down, feet up, going watching Gilmore Girls, eating Twizzlers, like literally. Just
Not Red Vines.
Oh, my sister likes Red Vines. It's very controversial in my family.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
sure they're very different.
Very.
They look the same, but they are different.
But the Gilmores eat Red Vines, which is why.
Of course.
Yeah.
No. I did not adjust my taste for the Gilmore Girls.
That's so true to who you are. I love that.
I stood strong. I said,
Yeah.
I know they love it, but I'm going to love
Yeah.
Twizzlers.
I know
I'm a
who I
Twizzler
am.
girl. Yeah, absolutely.
And we'd sit in the bed and we'd watch like a season in a day. And it was a time period when didn't happen often with TV shows. You really needed to spend $50 to watch a TV show.
No,
Just a season.
seriously. Seriously. And now we are still paying $50 to watch a TV show. It's gotten insane with like the streaming services, but it's not as much of an investment upfront for one season.
Before you even saw it.
$49.99 for a box set. My parents were like, what do you mean you want all the box sets? We can't afford this. And I was like, but I need it. I need to know what happens.
Which is why you had to watch it again and again and again, because you just spent $60 to watch the season.
It was the culture of like, let's watch a show over and over again. And Gilmore Girls in my house, I still remember because they were all like pink, purple. The box sets. I like kind of remember the violet color of like season 4 that the box set was.
Yes. So true. Oh my gosh. And we used to just like watch them on repeat, like, and then the disc would get scratched and you'd be like, fuck, I need to watch this scene. What's going to happen? It would just skip. Oh, those were the days.
I have a question. I haven't revisited the DVDs. What are the extras in the DVDs of the Gilmore Girls? You two must know.
We do.
do.
And actually, we have talked about doing an episode on just the extras because obviously you can't get them unless you watch the DVDs. Some people have posted those like deleted scenes and stuff on YouTube and some of the interviews, but they have some really fun stuff. They have like commentary from the directors and from Amy and Dan. They have deleted scenes. They have
There's a little
like,
documentary in season 1 of like
documentary, kind of like the making
but
of Gilmore Girls.
It's kind of funny though, because like it is season 1, but it's very clearly from season 4 because the season 1 box set was coming out so delayed to when the show was. Because on our Patreon, we go episode by episode in our rewatch, and we always read from the DVD box set description of like the chapter titles and all of that. So we see when there's like deleted scenes and extras that come about. We do have an episode that's just about deleted scenes, where you can watch the deleted scene in the episode on YouTube.
I love that. And I love that like TikTok and Instagram is putting out the deleted scenes now because that's how I'm revisiting those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's really cool. And also scenes that people are like, wait, no, this was in the show. And I'm like, it actually wasn't. But because we remember watching them on the box sets, people are like, no, I remember watching this. But it's not actually in the original episode, which is very cool.
Yeah. The extras are a lot better in the earlier seasons. As they go on, they were just like tossing the episodes on the discs and calling it a day.
You know what?
Yeah.
They're making more money. They're getting more famous. They want to get offsets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Totally.
sad sometimes when a TV show, like the people get more and more famous and they give less to the show.
I know.
Yeah. I will say with this one, it was never as popular then as it is now. They are way more famous for this project than they were when it was airing. So
It's true. It's true. So what were your favorite seasons to watch with your sisters? Like which ones did you guys have on DVD?
We had all of them.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh man.
We were
Hey, big spender. I love it.
Well, Chris, I will say this. My parents didn't like indulge in anything all year. We were very like, they were both teachers. They didn't like, we didn't go on vacations. Our vacations growing up, my aunt worked at a museum for the Smithsonian. So we just go to Washington, D.C. and go to museums.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It is nice. It made me.
it's not Disney World, but it's fun.
No, I understand. My mom is also a teacher, so I totally get it.
Yes, but Christmas time, my mom and dad, they would put away in their envelope and they woke up every morning and their goal was to make Christmas magical.
That's so sweet.
And they would just like, they killed it. They
Yeah.
they made
Yeah.
it so special for us, and they
awesome.
really spoiled us on Christmas.
Yeah.
So we would watch all those seasons. So I guess probably season when Jess starts coming around is
Hell
when
yeah.
I like
Season 2, baby. It's the best.
because then finally you meet someone that like Rory has a counterpart to that I actually respect.
Yeah, that you're invested in. Because, like, the young love of Dean and Rory is sweet to watch when you're in season 1. It's sweet. But then Jess comes on the scene, changes the game. Are you a team Jess?
Yeah,
Hell yeah, same here. Haley is team Logan, and we respect that.
we do.
I get it.
I will say
got it.
this as we get into 2025, it's harder and harder to be Team Logan with all this billionaire talk.
Right. That's so true.
Sorry. Sorry.
No, it's like if it's so true, but also like if we're like going that deep, he also was cheating on his wife in the revival.
Yeah.
So that is equally hard all the time to be on his team. So I just do a little, cherry pick because it's fictional.
Of course. Of course. I totally get that. I think that Dean is a very boring character too.
Yeah.
I think if he wasn't tall, he wouldn't have been on the show. They wouldn't have even dated if he wasn't tall.
Wait, did you ever see the unaired pilot with the original Dean?
No, who is it?
Nathan. His name is Nathan something.
Weatherington.
Nathan Weatherington. And this actor named Nathan Weatherington was in, we'll send you the link so you can watch
clip.
you can watch the unaired pilot. But the actor's name is Nathan Weatherington, and he is not as tall as Jared Padalecki. And he was also kind of just a little boring. And he apparently, there was like this whole article on him where they talk about how he had Dean. They filmed the pilot in Canada. Yes. Then he was also kind of in talks with George Lucas to play Anakin Skywalker in the second Star Wars film, in the fifth Star Wars film, the ones that came out in the early 2000s. And he was kind of torn about it, and then he turned down the opportunity to play Anakin Skywalker, and they gave it to Hayden Christensen, and then the WB was like, also you're being replaced on Gilmore Girls. And then he kind of went into a little bit of a dark place, because I understand, as an actor, I'm sure you understand. So he's done some stuff, like he's independently produced a lot, he's directed, but yeah, there was a very different path Nathan Weatherington could have taken, but he was the original Dean, and it was a little boring.
Yeah.
Definitely bring a lot to it. Yeah.
Dean, his character is tall and good hair.
Yeah.
That's
totally.
his character. Needy, tall, good hair.
And
Needy,
they started off, I think, when they introduced his character, wanting him to be a little bit more like Jess. He comes from Chicago. He's a city boy. He's like well read, and he understands Rory's references. But then as the series starts to move in the direction of introducing Jess, all of a sudden Dean kind of becomes a little dumbed down, like a little watered down.
Sure. Yeah, we call him Big Small Town Boy.
We call him a big small town boy because he kind of acts like, this is my town. I'm like, you just moved here,
You got
buddy.
here last season.
And you got here last week?
I mean, the scene to describe Dean the most is when they're sitting at the book fair and he's just like hunched over like a bored ass boyfriend, and he
Seriously.
and her passion, and she's like, one more minute, and she's like counting the books. It's like, be excited for her.
I know. He's just like, he's always looking at his watch, and he's like, look how much time it's been. But that's the thing, is that like this argument of like, Dean was so great and he went with her everywhere. I was like, he went with her everywhere begrudgingly. Yes. He did not enjoy himself. That doesn't mean that he's a great boyfriend just because he did it.
Yeah. It was the bare minimum is to show up.
Totally.
The bare minimum. And
yeah.
And as a Team Jess girl, I will
say,
admit
sometimes
that
Jess
like
didn't even do
Jess
that.
was not a great boyfriend.
Not good at all. He grew into a great man.
Yes, he did.
He grew. Yes. If we're like looking retroactively at the whole show, he's the person I'm most proud of.
Me too. Yes, that's such a beautiful way of putting it.
Who agrees with that is my dad. We were at dinner the other night. He saw some reel like that we had talked about because we recapped Partings, and I was like, "Am I still Team Logan?" And he had only seen that because he didn't listen to the whole podcast episode. And he goes, "Wait, you're not Team Logan anymore? Does this mean you're Team Jess?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "That's a man." He was like,
Ed said that's a man.
He grew. And I kind of like have this joke. I was like, we don't know anything about Jess. He could be a murderer and we wouldn't know because he didn't tell us. And my dad goes, no, you know who could be a murderer? Logan. I would believe Logan would have murdered someone. And I was like, oh.
Ed is
like,
Team Jess.
He said, not Jess, not my Jess. And I was like, all right then.
Ed has spoken. He's Team Jess.
He spoke. He's going to bat. He
I
called
did not
Logan
know
a
that.
potential murderer.
I mean,
Wait, I did not know that.
with the secret
Yeah.
society stuff, you never know.
You never
never
know. You don't know what they're
know.
doing. You don't know who they're sacrificing in there.
You never
He
know.
said it would have been easy for him to cover it up. He said that's what his dad does. And I was like, you're not wrong.
Oh my God.
Who else do you love on this show, Sebastian?
Well, I want to say about Jess that he's a great example of like, as in the later seasons, like positive masculinity when he takes her outside and he yells at Rory to be like, step up, be your full self. Like that, I think is someone like showing up in a positive masculine way.
Totally.
Who do I love on the show? Miss Patty.
Duh.
I mean,
Patricia LaCosta.
she's my crush, if I have to be honest. If I have one crush, it's
What
Miss
a crush
Patty.
to have. Oh my God. You can be her fifth husband. Yes.
I would love to be part of that list.
I know. She's just the best. Like her stories. Someone suggested here when we were talking about like prequels and sequels, doing a Miss Patty prequel. And I was like, I'd love to know more about that woman's life personally. We hear a
The
lot. I'd love
husbands
to
of
see
Miss
it.
Patty.
Yeah.
I wonder how much she lied.
Yeah.
As someone that knows people in the arts that leave the arts, they love to fabricate what their role in the arts were.
They love to embellish. Totally.
Yes. And
Oh my God, you're so right.
I love that about her. It only makes me like her more if she's embellishing all these stories and lying about who she met and stuff. I'm obsessed with her in that regard.
Well, I love when she's talking to Lorelai about like her history with the Business We Call show. And she's like, this is the anniversary of my first off-Broadway show. And she's like, oh, New York? No, Cleveland. Oh, that is off-Broadway. It's like, yeah, like you're technically right. But
There was Cleveland. It
Cleveland.
was not on Broadway.
That's the energy I love.
I know.
Yeah.
She's so funny. And we love her and Babette, the two of them.
They're a great
Babs.
pair.
A great
Yeah.
pair.
I
We love them.
I mean, my favorite part of the show is the town.
Yeah. Of course. The community.
I am obsessed with it. Obviously, I love Luke. Luke is I have problems with how they wrote him. I don't even blame him. I have problems with how they wrote him because he would never have acted that way if his daughter showed up, et cetera, et cetera. I think they felt like they needed to make him a problem, even though he was never a problem.
You don't think so? You don't think there was a little bit of avoidance in that man?
He showed up. He was outside her house, fixing her. He built her the thing for the wedding, right? I do think he was scared, but he stepped up and bought that audiobook.
Yeah.
The man who lied about his daughter is not the man who bought the audiobook.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So
That's the part that disappointed us. We just watched on Patreon season 6. We just started season 7, which is a slog. But we got really upset with Luke, like in the latter half of the season, because we were like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? But yes, of course, that's a writer's choice. It's kind of how I feel about Jess at the end of season 3. What are you doing?
yeah.
Where did you go? You loved this girl so much. You fought for her. And now you're letting her down. Very interesting parallel there. That we're rooting for Jess. We're rooting for Luke. And they end up just really letting a Gilmore girl down.
Yeah.
I know. And Rory really did try to show up for Jess.
Yeah, she did.
And I know people don't like that she went to New York and like almost missed the graduation, but I
love it.
I love it.
I love it.
I
Yeah.
think it's so romantic that she
It
went
is.
So dramatic too.
to cut
For her to
Yeah.
come back and be like, I don't like him.
Yeah.
And you're like, are you joking?
You love
Yes,
him.
you do.
When I was a teenager and I cut school to hang out with a girl, it was like the most love I've ever felt in the moment.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Skip school out of love with the love in my heart. Yeah.
Especially for her
100%.
at that point. She loved school at that point.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's always been in her heart to love school, but it seemed like she loved Jess more that day.
Yeah. It just was a really cool moment to see her color outside the lines a little bit. We always see Rory like follow the rules. She's a good girl. She doesn't do anything to make waves. And I think that Jess really ignited something in her. But that's why I also understand Team Logan, because Logan also brought out a lot in her that in season 5, I really loved. And in season 6, for the most part, he's a pretty good partner. But then he just kind of isn't. He's a good partner until he's not.
I agree. I think Logan had a lot of great qualities about him too.
Yeah.
I think that he encouraged her to step into her potential.
Totally.
I mean, the most obvious statement ever. But
It's your choice.
yeah, I think that he was good. He to give her this come stay with me. I think that is a beautiful thing that he had stuff and he was sharing with the person that he loved even when he was gone. I think that he did. Logan isn't a bad choice. I just want to say that. I know I said before he's not a bad choice.
You could say he was a bad choice, and I would totally respect you for it. I would say you're wrong, but
I think he's very handsome too. It's interesting.
Oh my God.
What a guy.
Yes.
It's interesting because she dates she doesn't have a type, it feels like.
no. Well, she does.
What?
Obsessed with her.
And even then, she sometimes doesn't want them. Case in point,
If
Marty.
he's obsessed with her, she's into it.
And I blame Lorelai for that.
Because Lorelai is obsessed with her.
Yeah. Lorelai is obsessed with her. And the town is obsessed with her.
Obsessed with her. They treat her like the angel on top of a Christmas tree.
Which I can't fault her for. You wouldn't come from a supportive community, a nice environment where everyone is telling you how great you are versus the opposite, which is where Lorelai maybe came from, where everyone was not feeding into her in any way. But yeah, it is hard to then look at her boyfriends who are just as obsessed with her as everyone else is. And you're like, really? This girl who reads? I read, and no one's ever been obsessed with me.
That you know of.
That's true.
That's
That
so
you
fair.
know
Make
of.
yourself known if you're hot.
Sebastian, tell us your thoughts on Lorelai.
Biggest crush.
Yeah, I mean,
When I was a kid, I had the biggest crush on her. I thought she was amazing. I loved how funny she was. As a kid, I thought she was very funny, and I loved that. I was scared as an adult to revisit it, that I would find the talking a lot to be a little too much. But I still liked it.
I know.
Yeah.
It's hard not to. She's so fun and whimsical, and she's someone you want to not only hang out with, but you also kind of want her to be your mom.
Yeah.
You're like, can you be my mom too? You kind of are. You raised me in a sense. But you want to be friends with her. And now that we're close to her age and around her age and not close to Rory's age anymore, there is something, a little scary about revisiting that because you're like, oh, would I hang out with you? But I would.
That's totally it. It's oh, she's in her 30s. So am I. So what do I feel about her now? And I really liked her. And I like showing characters that are a little messy. And she's messy. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we love about Amy's writing is that she's creating these really intricate, messy, imperfect characters. And it starts at the helm with Lorelai.
Yeah. And I think that we've forgiven messy male characters for years on television, and this was I didn't even know I was experiencing the messy women on TV and loving it. So I really liked that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything about this show or any of the characters that you don't like?
Ooh, anything that I don't like. Well, I didn't like the end. I didn't like how the show kind of wrapped up.
Which time?
Which I was supposed to say which ending.
Oh, you know what? If I look at the sequel, A Year in the Life, if I look at that as a story about Emily Gilmore, I like it.
Yeah.
I
know.
She's the best part.
If I just go, oh, this is a showing what happened to Emily, I go, what a transformation. When they show the shot of her with the shoes switching to the sneakers, I go, that's beautiful.
Her journey in that is so good.
Crushing.
Yeah.
Crushing, but beautiful.
And I mean, there must have been so much real emotion because he died in real life and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
It must have been weird. It's funny for him to die in real life and them to be but we're still going to do this bit with this giant painting of him.
That giant painting. It's just we're going to commemorate him. Hey, Ed.
He's still here.
He's
life
still
size.
Because I think Emily, I would love to have wonder what Emily did if she never got married. She seems like such a strong person. and she stands for what she believes in, but her whole life was taking care of this family and propping him up. So I love to see that side of Emily. Because I think
That's
Emily
so
is this
interesting.
villain, and she's not, in my opinion.
No, she's an antagonist, but we fall in love with her.
Yeah.
That's so interesting that you say that, because we earlier this month did an episode called What If Emily, where we like went through her storyline of like what if situations, and that one was not proposed of like what if she hadn't gotten married to Richard, and that is very interesting. I had never thought about that.
I think she would have been extremely powerful, successful, and she would have had this beautiful life, because look how far she took Richard. No offense to Richard, but he's kind of bumbling. He only got success because of the people he knew at like going to Yale and stuff like that. But I think Emily is that driving force behind him. And there are moments where he turns to her for advice in his career.
Totally. No, the woman behind the man is just as important as the man, if not more important. And I think that in a very patriarchal society like the one that Emily and Richard grew up in, women didn't really receive their flowers for that. And we're starting to realize that now as a generation. Yeah. And so watching it now and watching kind of the transitional period, because 2000, I don't think we necessarily were super, like, I think we were in the throes of kind of transitioning into the, like, really respecting the Loreleis of the world who pull themselves up by their bootstraps and make it on their own, but there was still that stereotype there. There still is today, but you know what I'm saying? We were not appreciating them as much as we are today. And I totally agree with you. I think she would have slayed as a single lady. She would have slayed.
Think about, she got him to call off a wedding. The power.
I know. That's the prequel we want. We want to see her in the blue dress showing up to Richard and being like,
that's the prequel
make a decision,
we all want.
Me or her. And it's her.
It would be such a good like period piece too, because like
I know.
It would look so beautiful.
I know. When you think about Maisel and the way that Amy executed that, seriously.
But with Emily
and Richard.
We talk about this all the time. This is the only thing we want.
It's all we want. We don't want another sequel. We don't want another season of A Year in the Life. We don't.
I
we don't
agree.
think there's more to
Let's go back.
tell. We're good. We don't think there's anything else to say. Life is going to continue to go on, but I don't think we need to see it. You know what I mean?
Well, I think we got a touch with that commercial, and I even have problems with the commercial that's a minute long.
Tell
What's
us.
your problems with the commercial?
So Luke's love language has to be acts of service, right? Because he shows up, he gets acts of service. Why the hell is he getting her a Keurig when his job is to make coffee and give it to her? Her favorite thing in the world. Why is he like, I'm going to remove myself from that situation? The thing that I love doing for you and you love receiving from me for decades. Now I'm going to take me out of it to put a damn machine in there?
Amen,
That's
babe.
the way of the world now.
Say that.
We're replacing everyone with machines, including Luke.
Say that.
I just,
No, that's so fair. I mean, to be fair, it had a carafe and a pod situation, the one that she was getting. So like he just making sure that from the time he leaves to go to work, that she has enough to make it to her 6th cup of coffee at his place without, keeling over Ted.
No, yeah, but I'm. It's so crazy to watch a commercial and dissect it. I just want to say I felt insane that I rewatched commercials.
No, you are in. Well, if
you
you
needed to come hang out with us.
I was going to say, welcome to the asylum. We're all here together.
When it came out, me and my sister were on the phone. I'm walking because I like to call her as I walk, and we're just gabbing about this damn commercial.
What did she have to say about it? Did she feel the same?
Yeah, she agreed. She went into the lore about the pictures behind him, about like his grandchild, etc. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We went deep and everybody was like, you can analyze a commercial like this? I was like, absolutely.
We haven't gotten much.
They gave it to us
some time. But how did you feel about the ending of the series, the original series, and then of the revival?
I liked when they threw the party.
Yeah.
Because that was the town coming together. Mm-hmm. And I think that the more town events that there were, and the more of like the town showing up for each other, that's why I'm there. So that was enjoyable to me.
Totally. It was, for all intents and purposes, even though we don't love season 7, was a really good send off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except Logan wasn't there.
Yeah. No, I mean, it did feel, I do think Logan shouldn't have proposed at that party.
No. Oh my God. Mr. Life and Death Brigade?
You know what we talk about often?
That he didn't throw?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. And I think what we talk about often, and we're going to get into it as we move through season 7, is that like Logan goes from in Hey Belle Maze being like, let's factor each other in. You want to factor me in? I'll factor you in. Great. To I'm going to propose to you. And if you don't say yes, we're done. And it's like, how did we get here? That just feels very off brand for him.
I think he was scared. I think that his father was putting so much pressure on him because it was this like ultimate thing of as soon as you graduate, your life is going to change. You're going to have to move. You're working for the company, right? I think that he was acting out of fear. And he's like, my life has to change. I need you to change with me.
Yeah, you're like my one good thing. You have to come with me.
Yeah, I think it was a desperate move. And there's, in my opinion, there's nothing sadder than a desperate proposal.
Oh, yeah.
No.
No, but in the same way that you feel about Luke, like this is not his character. That's how I felt about Logan when we get there. I'm like, who is this guy? Like, really?
And
This
Haley
is
watched that
the-
live. Like she was watching it live and was like, what is going on?
And
What
like
is happening?
teenage me, this was like, he was like my end all be all. I loved this man. Like the love that I have for him now is like teenage me inside of me. Like I have a very, adult perspective about it, but like still inside of me, the girl who loves Logan is 16 years old. So having to watch that live, it's still like a core memory of torture.
Of course. Oh, God.
Traumatizing.
To be disappointed by your crush.
Yeah, I know. Yes.
He let us down.
He let me
So
down.
then, in finding that you really enjoyed the party and the send off that Lorelai and Rory and ultimately Gilmore Girls ended up having, how'd you feel about the ending and the last 4 words of A Year in the Life?
I'm pregnant?
Yeah.
I didn't give a crap.
No.
I was just like, whatever.
Really?
By that point, I didn't care.
Really?
Here's the thing. So in my mind, they're playing. I know that was the ultimate ending that she wanted for the original show, right?
Yes.
I know that, lore. And I know that it's like, oh my God, here it is. Rory's becoming Lorelai. She's a single woman who's going to have a baby, yada, yada. But she's not Lorelai. I think it's a much different scenario. Lorelai was a teenager that was left her home because she felt like she wasn't supported. Rory had so much opportunity in her life.
Yeah. And even now, she has Lorelai, she has Emily, she has billionaire Logan. I guess there will be a stepmom involved maybe because he might be getting married, it seems. Who knows?
Unless
There's a whole town.
Unless it's the Wookiee's baby.
No.
It's not the Wookiee's baby. Sebastian.
We've done math.
You've done that?
The math is not mathing. That girl would be rolling down the street pregnant if she was pregnant by that Wookiee by the time we get there.
All right. If you've done the math, I believe you now. I'll stop going around saying that. But at the end of the show, I was just like, oh, I don't know. I just didn't care. I would have rather them made small talk about something that's not important because that showed me that life continues more of who they are rather than, oh, a big thing's about to happen and you won't be here for it.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah.
It's so
It is a
hard
bit
to
of a
end the show.
cliffhanger.
It's so
yeah.
hard to end a show, especially a show like this.
I was going to say a slice of life show like this. How do you end a slice of life show? I do think, and again, these are probably the only flowers I'll give to the season 7 writers, them panning out as the two of them are sitting in Luke's diner is the way you end a slice of life show.
Exactly. There's this theory I've read online about like TV shows in general. Like comedy TV shows, usually their last episode is a dramatic episode.
The Office.
Yes.
They're leaving. Yep.
It's so they, and usually like a dramatic show will end with like also dramatic, but like comedy shows change who they are for this last episode. And I do believe like at its core, Gilmore Girls is a comfy comedy.
Yeah.
Right?
Comfy
Yeah.
comedy. I love that.
And so there was this TV show called Dinosaurs. I never saw it, but this is like the big example. It's like, it was like these puppet dinosaurs. I'm the baby.
No, I remember.
Yeah.
The
last-
baby dinosaur in the high chair. Hell yeah.
The last episode is they get the meteors coming and they're all going to die.
Yes.
And that's like the biggest example of like, oh, we have to make something big happen right at the end rather than just be like, no, this was the show you love and we're just going to continue to give that rather than change it in the last moment.
Totally.
Yeah. That one's harder because that is what happened to the dinosaurs.
that you're right. And if that show did nothing, it wanted to be historically accurate. So
Yes, exactly. It wanted some historical accuracy.
I
No,
recall.
but I'm with you. The Office, Friends, they have to move out of that apartment. And that is the big goodbye. We are leaving this apartment. Ross and Rachel are going to be together. You know, like there's finality to it. And I know that people want that. But all the same, do people really want finality with a slice of life show like Gilmore Girls? I don't think so. Everybody's still calling for more. They want more. And I think that they would want that whether we got a cliffhanger ending like, you know, the last 4 words, or if we got the ending we did with season 7, because they just want to see where they are. They want to know where they're at because they love the show and life goes on.
Yeah. And my least favorite part of Gilmore Girls is the drama parts.
Oh, really?
Really
Yes.
controversial. That's Haley's favorite part.
That's my favorite part.
Really?
She
like when
loves
they're-
it.
Like when Luke and Lorelai are yelling at each other in the street after Jess and Rory got into the car accident and Rory was in the hospital. I love that.
I get that. The way you just painted that sounds really nice.
Yeah, you're like, wait, I love that too.
What is it? He said, screw you or something like that.
No. She goes, go to hell. And he goes right
Go to
back
hell.
at you. And it's
that's so
so
good.
like,
It's so good because like you love those characters so much, and to like have them just continuously always be happy, you're kind of like, at some point you're like, okay,
I'm bored.
the meteor has to come for the dinosaurs, you know? But like in that regard, it's like them reuniting at the beginning of season 3 is just so good. And like I think that creates that comfortableness that like you can come back to your friends who you said to go to hell, and you can continue on together in the same way that you would want to with your friends in your real life who you fight with. That like there's people in your life who are going to love you through the conflicts in your life, which I think is just as comfy cozy as sitting on the couch together.
That's such a beautiful point. I love that. I love changing my mind.
Us
You don't have to change your mind.
You've done it so much.
I think that's so. I mean, you two are the experts. I'm here. I was so nervous for this
No.
because you two.
Oh my gosh, no.
I'm never nervous. I'm like, oh, they're gonna know so much more than me. Obviously.
Oh my God, no.
I was literally on the phone with my sister before this, and she. I record multiple podcasts a week, and I'm like, what am I gonna do?
No, oh my gosh.
Wait, I have to tell you, it's so funny because in the opposite way, I was not nervous for this at all because I was like, I'm just so excited to talk to someone who knows the show and loves the show like we do. Like, I felt
we
so
literally
at ease
had,
knowing
like,
you were
no
coming
stress.
here. Yeah.
That's so nice. Oh my God. And my
Just because we know you love the show and like that we could just kiki and talk as friends.
You're so right. And my sister's like, she's like, you just have to tell them how it makes you feel. They'll know more facts than you, but it's okay, Sebastian.
We are all about how the show makes us feel because that's what led us here is that like we just love the show. And we've just grown to know a lot about it because this is what we do.
Of course. And I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
It's a lot of fun. I won't lie to you. It's a good time. And I've learned a lot from Haley, like her talking about the drama. Because I'm like you. I'm like, wait, I love the cozy. And she's like, I love the drama. And there are times when I agree with her and times when I'm like, I can't handle it. But
But it's such a good point. It keeps the cozy fresh.
it does.
Yeah,
And
it does.
because otherwise it's just nothing happens.
I want to say this. As a person that lives in the city, I think Gilmore Girls is a perfect show for people that live in like a busy city.
So true.
Because nothing happens is my fantasy.
Yeah.
Yes.
My
No,
fantasy
you're so right.
is I think Gilmore Girls is a city person show, and shows like Sex and the City, Emily in Paris, those are country people, suburb people shows.
So real.
That's
wow.
my mom's
That's
favorite
so real.
show, and I live in the suburbs in Georgia.
There are not many places like Stars Hollow, and that's what makes it idealistic and this idyllic place that like maybe exists somewhere, but like is really kind of a fantasy land, especially in the early 2000s when like you weren't so attached to your phone and
what I was
there's
about to
just
say,
so much to crave there.
We just talked about it with one of the authors. Like we have a lot of authors on because surprisingly the like Venn diagram of like writers and Gilmore Girls fans is almost a circle. And there was a writer named Anne Hood. She wrote she edited some essays called 15 essays, 15 writers on why we can't stop watching Gilmore Girls, I think. Life Short, Talk Fast. And we were talking about the legacy of Gilmore Girls, and a lot of it has to do, in our opinion, with like the technology of like, it's a fantasy for this generation now to be disconnected, to live in a walkable city, to be like almost unreachable, in someone has to page you in order to get in touch with you. You're not scrolling on your phone. You're just having these conversations, and that feels like a fantasy to a lot of people now who are just like so locked in on their phone.
Yeah, that's great. It feels like time moves different there.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because they were always in a rush, but it didn't matter.
Yeah.
They would
always
get
had
up
plenty
at
of time.
They had plenty of time to go to Luke's in the morning, even though school started at 8:00.
Of course. And the no phone thing is true, because they did have cell phones, but they weren't. It was only like to call each other in an emergency.
Yeah.
And it kind of like aged as the show went on, because like you kind of see the development of phones, because they changed out Lorelai's phone a lot on the show. We like tracked this early in the seasons, because sometimes she'd have a flip phone, sometimes Rory would have it, sometimes Rory would have a pager, and then slowly they both started having phones, and then they were emailing each other, and then Rory got a sidekick in season 6 from Christopher, a big deal.
Huge
so
deal.
it just
I kind of hated the email phase.
It was so of the time, though. It was so
Yeah.
like, they would email each other because, like, in the same way that we would text each other, but it was just so of the
texts
time.
were too expensive.
But I respect that they didn't include it too much. It was a gag with no cell phones in Luke's diner. He was like, I hate this. We're all doomed for exactly what we're currently doing. We're all just going to be on our computers and our phones all the time. And they're like, oh, Luke.
Yeah.
And now it's 2025 and here we are.
You know?
You know?
How do you feel about Emily and Richard just as characters? Because I know, as you mentioned before, a lot of people tend to view them as the villains, but I think they're kind of fun.
I think they're fun too. And I do think that it's hard. It's complicated, because I do think that they wanted the best for Lorelai even when she got pregnant. I think that her running away was partly her choice. Yes, she was living in an environment that she didn't want to live in. But I do think that they would have supported her and shown up for her as parents to help support the child. And I do think that for years, probably in Lorelai's minds, they were like this villain. And I think that it shows a lot about their character, that they want to give the loan, but in return, they just want to be with them.
Yeah.
At the heart,
They
they
want-
want to be a family.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think it ebbs and flows on like the terms that they want to be a family on, especially for Emily. It's like we could be a family, but on my terms. But we always say on this podcast that we feel like Emily is team Lorelai and Rory and Richard is team Rory, because I feel like with Emily, she is always she just wants Lorelai. She loves Rory and she wants a relationship with her. In fact, that is often like the carrot she dangles in front of Lorelai, when those situations arise. But she just really at the heart of it wants a relationship with her daughter. I think Richard loves her, but when he gets endeared to Rory, it's like, oh, that little girl has my heart. Case in point, the end of season 5, when they're like, oh, we're going to have this plan. We're getting Rory back to Yale. And as soon as Rory walks in that door and starts crying in his arms, he's like, okay, I got you. I'm on your team.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was that's a complicated moment there, because that's choosing your granddaughter over your daughter in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways. And you could tell Emily wasn't quite on board. You could tell she needed to be convinced by Richard to go along with this plan. He did a lot of the talking.
It's Emily and Lorelai's scenes, their talking points are about Rory a lot of the time, but it's just to bring them closer together.
It's really them talking about their relationship and their fights. Oh my God, we're going to talk in a couple weeks about for Mother's Day, we're going to kind of talk about the fights between Emily and Lorelai, because they are
Nothing says Mother's Day.
Nothing says Mother's Day like a fight. They're so good. And it's a testament to, the writing, and also Lauren and Kelly and their acting. It's just explosive in the best way.
Well, I'm sure you both know about those were her favorite scenes to shoot.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, of course.
No doubt.
And they're the most fun. I mean, being Emily must have been one of the most fun roles to play, because you get to be cutting, you get to be funny, you get to be dramatic. It's it has everything as Emily.
It has everything.
Yeah.
Did you read her book?
No.
say that,
You
yeah.
want to know something? I did not read her book. My friend got it for me for Christmas, and I haven't seen my friend, so it's just sitting at their house.
Wait, that's so funny. What I will say is that I listened to it on audiobook and it was like talking to a friend. I wasn't
really
talking,
feels
she
like-
was, but
Yeah. It feels like you go to coffee with Kelly Bishop. And if you, instead of listening at 1 time speed, if you listen to it at 1.5, it feels like Emily Gilmore is telling you the story.
she's talking a little faster.
That's awesome.
So while you're
Yeah.
waiting for the book, because I listened to the audiobook and then I read it,
Yeah.
listen to the audiobook. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's just, you learn so much about her. It's probably one of the best memoirs I've ever read. Really? Listened to and read.
As an actor, I feel like as someone who lives in New York City
Yes.
and someone who loves Gilmore Girls, she tells this incredible story about her life and the circumstances that she was facing in her own personal life as she was filming the revival and kind of how that reflected on her. And you're going to love it. You're going to cry. You're going to laugh.
Wow.
You're going to love it.
You'll laugh, you'll cry. Yeah, it's really good. I think you'll really enjoy it. And if you choose to wait to get the book and read it, still listen to it on audiobook. It's
Yeah.
just like she narrates
The
it so
delivery.
well, her delivery.
Yeah.
She's such an icon. Before we go into our March Madness bracket, I want to hear your thoughts on Lane Kim, because my boyfriend actually came on the podcast recently. He's watching it for the first time. And we're only at the end of season 5. So he just saw Rory drop out of Yale. He's about to see the Rift. It's a lot. But one of his least favorite characters is Lane Kim.
I love Lane.
He just feels like a lot of her storyline has been tossed to the side. And I'd have to agree in a lot of ways.
I get that.
You know?
I met Lane in person. I taught her improv a few times.
No way. You and
Really?
Keiko?
Yeah,
Fun.
she was so fun and such a nice person. And
Yeah.
I had to like hide how much of a fan I was of Gilmore Girls.
She saw it in your eyes. You had Stars Hollow stamped on those irises.
Yeah, like Indiana Jones, I just kept blinking.
Yeah. She knew.
Yeah, so I met her as a person. I think she's wonderful and she's very talented. But as a character, I mean, I have problems with her having sex once and hating it. I think that I hated that storyline. I hated that. I think it's dumb. I think it's I love her mother. I think her mother at the end of the day Miss Kim was trying to do the best for her daughter and what she could do. I think Lane was a great example of people that didn't have a parents like Lorelai, how much they would yearn for someone that they could be free around. Because a lot of us, our parents my parents didn't like the music I listened to growing up. They didn't like encourage me to do stuff. And I rebelled in a lot of ways, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that was like a great example of how sometimes you need that second home to go to really feel free.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
And I really do love early season Lane. I love her exploration outside of the home and like finding her interests and her finding the band and finding Dave Rogowski. Like, I love that so much. But once we kind of just like push her off on to the other closest guy after Dave Rogowski leaves, it's just such a letdown. And it really, everything to do with Lane after that point that I appreciate is between her and her mom, like her wedding.
Yeah. The wedding was beautiful, how they did all of them, and the mom left to go, you enjoy.
Yeah.
I thought that was really beautiful. I do love when Lane touched the guy's hair.
Yes.
I think
Hilarious.
that is Lane.
That's so
Lane
good.
Kim.
Yes.
Yes.
Truly. Like but I don't think that if we're talking about like characters, like kind of like them writing them incorrectly from who I know them to be, that Lane wouldn't settle for Zach. Like that Lane was like so in love with the idea of finding someone she was meant to be with, and it being Zach is just like
Yeah, and I think I liked Zach until they started dating.
exactly.
Same.
We like Zach and Brian together. We think
They're
that's
such a
the
fun
true
duo.
romance. Yeah.
That's the relationship we want to see play out.
Of course, in the bunk beds, and then one night they joined each other.
Yes.
That was
Totally.
horrible.
They're so silly. And I'm like, why did we do this to this character? Because I don't think we're meant to necessarily like Zach as a love interest. No. So you present this character to us who's meant to be this like doofy guy who hits on Lorelai. Ew. And then you're going to be like, yeah, invest in him and Lane Kim's relationship. Absolutely not. I'm not on board.
No.
No.
And I don't think he's talented enough that he's going to go tour.
Thank you. I agree.
No.
I completely agree. we really wish that she would have been the one to go on tour and he took care of the kids. If someone was going to go on tour, it should have been Lane Kim.
That would have been awesome. And I love when Mrs. Kim shows up with the binder. This is how you're going to tour. These are the churches.
Yes.
That was an iconic moment in the show. Oh,
So good.
She slammed that door open so hard, she went, boom, we're going on tour. It was so good. I was like, this is such an unexpected twist.
yeah. But that's who Miss Kim was the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
She wanted. She's like, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it the best possible way.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah.
we're going 10 toes down.
I will say, though, one of my favorite things that's ever happened on the podcast was when Mrs. Kim, we were recounting this episode, Kim's Don't Give Up. And Tara's response to that is, well, where's Mr. Kim? 'Cause he seems to have given up.
Well, maybe she didn't take his last name, and that's her last name. She kept her maiden name. He left.
Well, this is what we can only assume because we were talking about this recently. Mama Kim,
Oh,
her mom's name, and like unless they both shared that name, that has to be her mother's name.
yeah.
Because otherwise they just shared a last name. So
It's very confusing.
because Keon calls them the two Mrs. Kims, and I was like,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about all
I
that.
have a lot of questions.
We have a lot of questions, but I love that they give a little homage to Mr. Kim in the revival. They were like, hey, Mr. Kim. And he's like, all of a sudden he's there. And I was like, where have you been?
Where have you been?
this whole
No.
time?
That's insane.
This feels like a true crime doc.
It is.
One thing I have, the show is very hair focused, I want to say. It's a lot of men with great hair, right? And
yeah.
the one thing I didn't like about the sequel is that they put a wig on Luke.
Oh, Sebastian. Yes.
I
hated it.
It made him feel older
Yes.
than he was.
Yeah.
Just let him be balding. He's 50 something years old.
That's
right?
fine. That's okay. It happens to the best of us. Or put a baseball cap on him all of the time.
Yes.
He always had a cap on.
He always has a baseball hat on.
Why did we
Unless
need to
he's
put a
going to the
toupee on
bay.
him? That was, I remember when we started the podcast a few years ago, and we took like clips from the I think it was a 17 magazine that they did, or People, and they had kind of like a Brady Bunch type cover for Gilmore Girls, and there was a photo of Luke from 2016 when they did the revival of him and his toupee, and I was like, why did we do this? It's so obvious. It's like the episode with Taylor where he's wearing a toupee.
Yeah.
It's so obvious. Take that thing off of him.
It's funny to have a plot point in the show about bad hair, bad toupees, and then put one on one of your characters.
Correct.
Also, I'll tell you this: men that wear baseball caps are losing their hair. If they're wearing it every single day, they're losing
Yes,
their
they
hair.
are.
It makes sense.
It does. It makes sense.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, but someone loved hair, and it reminded me when Lane touched the hair. I'm like, there's someone that's writing this show that's like, I like men's beautiful hair.
It's
Amy
true though,
loves
because
it.
like Max Medina, great hair. Jess, great hair.
Dean?
Dean, great hair.
Every man in the show, even Richard has good hair.
I know.
You're so right. He does.
It's a show full of men with good hair.
With really good hair. You're
That's
so
what we
right.
should rename it.
Hairmore Girls.
Good hair. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of men, we did say that we wanted to play a little March Madness with you. So we have this bracket that Haley and I actually did 2 years ago. We came up with it in May, so we called it the May Madness bracket because March had already passed. So we're actually going to do it in March this year with you, which is great because we basically did this bracket that would determine who the best guy on Gilmore Girls was. And we won't tell you who won because I want to wait until we figure out who your answer is as we pit these people against each other. But I love the idea of a man who loves Gilmore Girls sharing who he thinks the best man on Gilmore Girls is. There's something very exciting to me about that.
Okay.
So
Yeah. And I'm very excited once we've gotten through and you've decided who your best man is to see what you thought about our best man.
Well, here's the thing. There's a couple of men I haven't brought up that I really love.
okay.
Maybe they're in the bracket.
Maybe they're in the bracket. I hope they are.
So
If
I'm
not,
excited for that. There's a few men that we haven't
If
talked
not,
about yet that
yes.
I think are amazing characters. And
Okay.
here's my
Okay.
question. What do you mean best man? It's not like romantic. It's how are we qualifying this?
Great question.
I think it's individual. I think it's
Okay.
personal.
Okay.
It can be how he shows up in a romantic relationship, which doesn't always mean that he was like the best, he was the most romantic partner, but like maybe he was the most solid partner. Just like a good man, I would say.
Just a good man. I love this.
Good man.
Okay. I'm going. Okay.
There's no tricks here, just treats. So
Yeah,
just your opinion.
treats. It's true.
I love the idea that I'm still caught up that you talked to your sister about this beforehand, because I love the idea that maybe we were like gotcha journalism, Gilmore Girls style. We're gonna call you out.
I just didn't.
But no.
Here's the thing. I just didn't want to sound like I didn't know Gilmore Girls, because if I love it so much, and I'm like, what if I forget a character's name?
That's totally fine.
I know.
There have been people who have seen the show, like just seen a couple of seasons, to people who fall asleep to it every night. So we just like to celebrate what your love for the show is.
Seriously.
Without any, like, feeling like we need to quiz you.
All right. We have the bracket. It's with us. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you totally should be, at least for this part, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see the visual of it all. So we kind of put like Lorelai's men on one side, Rory's men on the other side. We're talking about like men in Rory's world, less like men she was with.
Yes.
With Lorelai, these are all people who have either dated her or who have expressed interest in her. So let's start on Lorelai's side.
Okay.
We're going to start first with Luke versus Alex.
I mean, come on.
Is it Luke?
Yeah,
Is your sweatshirt giving us the answer?
You know what? I had the.
How'd you feel about Alex, though?
I don't care.
No, not an Alex fan?
Not an Alex fan. I mean, Luke. I look at Luke as like someone. He shows up. Too often people are doing words rather than actions, and I think Luke is a great example of actions over words. Show up. Yeah.
He's an acts of service guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I love
totally.
that.
Okay.
Okay.
Christopher versus Jason.
Oh, I don't like Jason.
You're not a Jason fan.
You don't?
I like the dog bit. The dog
I
is
like
funny.
his dog.
Yeah, the dog is funny. I mean,
A little to the left.
I think that's hilarious. I don't like Christopher either, though.
I know. Oh, I know.
Though they have such good chemistry, the two of them.
They do.
Like,
They really do.
not Chris and Jason, Chris and Lorelai.
Hey, we don't know. We didn't see them on screen
we
together.
don't know. Yeah, you're so right.
I'm gonna have to pick Christopher just to see the next round, because I want those two to. Those two, I need Luke to show up at the door.
You need them to
Yeah,
tussle.
you want them to fight.
Yeah. So I'm gonna move forward with Christopher.
Okay, perfect. What about Max and Peyton Sanders? Peyton Sanders is John Hamm. You remember
Yes.
Peyton, right? Okay.
I have to go Max. I think Max Medina was a great character. We haven't talked about him. And I do think
Yes.
that he really tried his best and showed up for Lorelai. I mean, how do we not like 1,000, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, the only thing that we don't like about 1,000 Yellow Daisies is that he wasn't there. He called her on the phone. It was a beautiful, dramatic moment where like she's surrounded by all these daisies on the phone. 1,000, please. That's like 16 million. But he was on the phone.
I think that he really wanted to make it work with her. And I think that he's a really great guy who like was putting his career on the line.
He really was. Yeah.
Amen.
Like,
Yeah.
they were making out in his classroom in the middle of school.
Yeah. NC-17 apparently, and I want to know what that means for them. Why? What were you doing that made that NC-17? I have questions. Okay, so we're going with Max. What about Rune versus Bo? A family affair, if you will.
I have to do Rune because I think he's hilarious.
Hilarious.
I
And Bo
love
Belleville is
Rune.
so skeevy. Rune is awful, but
Yes, he's awful.
Bo
but
is
he's
actually
hilarious.
awful.
Rune is funny. Rune knows who
Yeah.
he is.
Yes.
Yes.
He
That's
stands
like-
10 toes down in who he is.
Yes.
There's just something about like the Rune bit. Whenever he's on, I love him. And it's controversial. A lot of people don't find him funny at all. And I love the man.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what we found out in like our rewatch, is that like I found this man to be absolutely hilarious, and not everyone agreed.
A lot of people bent for Lorelai, and he didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So true.
He knew who he was. He didn't adjust. I mean,
Thought she was too tall.
yeah.
Fair.
I love that. It wasn't his fault. It was her fault.
Yeah, of course.
I realize in hindsight I should have included Michelle and Kirk, but I'm curious how you feel about those two men because I know we haven't talked about them.
First off, I love Michelle. I think that he's a amazing character. I can't believe that he didn't even speak English well until like the later seasons.
Yeah.
I think that I love their rapport, and I love how he doesn't say how much he loves Lorelai, but he like does show. He keeps showing up, giving up that job to go back to work with them and stuff like that, presenting gifts. I think that I like Michelle. And Kirk, I believe that we are all Kirks. As millennials, if we relate to one character, it has to be Kirk. We all want to grow up to be Luke or Jess or Dean, Lorelai, Rory. Nope. We all just grew up to be Kirk, just having 30 odd jobs while living with our parents. Living with our parents.
That is so real.
To pursue our art. That's all it is.
That is so real.
It's not wrong. I'm literally at my parents' house right now.
100%.
That is so real.
He literally is all of us. He was like a joke character, but that was our reality. That's what we all grew into.
That's who we are.
Yeah.
So real.
We call him Barbie Girl because he has so many jobs. He can do all of them.
This Barbie is the mailman.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving over to Rory's side. We're going to do Dave Rogowski versus Finn.
I have to go Dave. I think
Yes.
Finn's a little manipulative.
Finn is just all over the place. Who is Finn? Where does he come from?
Yeah. Truly. I think Australia is where he's from. But I felt like that one would be obvious. Are you like a strong Dave person? Like do you go to bat for Dave?
No, I don't. I think I don't mind Dave. I think he would have been a bigger part of the show. Could have been a bigger part of the show.
In our podcast, he's like a very big celebrity around these parts.
Why?
Oh,
For that Bible, reading the Bible in one night to go to Prom with Lane.
Interesting. I wonder what would have happened if he stayed. Of course, reading the Bible was an epic, and that speech was amazing. I just wonder what would have happened to them because he was only perfect.
I know.
Yeah, he had no flaws.
And
He
Adam
cared too
Brody
much.
speaks to that. He talks about that. He said something about it recently in an interview because someone brought up like, hey, you are like, very loved in the Gilmore Girls world. He's like, I don't really understand why. I came in and I was who I was, but maybe I was love bombing her. Yeah.
I saw that exact
No.
interview, and I kind of agree. There was
No.
there's some. Well, one, we have to remember, he knows nothing.
Yeah.
But
That's what I was like. I wanted to walk in that interview and give him some facts.
But it was only perfect from moment one, and it just made me wonder who he is, because he was always just changing who he was for her. Never like, I guess he liked music.
Yeah.
and he liked his band and he liked her.
Yeah,
It was just how much he tried to integrate himself into this world that was very complicated by Mrs. Kim and her rules. And like in the past, we saw Henry, who was willing to kind of work with her and figure out, how can we kind of like talk? Because I know you have a strict mom, until he couldn't. And Dave did not let that hold him back. He was like, no, I'm actually going to introduce myself to your mom. I am actually going to play music for your mom. I'm going to get your mom to fall absolutely in love with me so that I can take you to the prom. And I was like, man, that's a king.
And I feel like it's such a teenage boy thing to be like, okay, I'm obsessed with two things, my guitar and my girlfriend.
So real.
that is so real. Yeah, I do.
And
the Bible moment is very cute when he shows
it's
up.
iconic, yeah.
Yes,
It's kind of the most romantic thing to ever happen to Lane Kim in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And
yeah, which is sad.
alas.
Yeah.
She deserves better.
She deserves better.
She really did. And I think she deserved Dave, who just continued on and continued being the best possible person.
I bet you if
and exactly who he was.
she had sex with Dave, she would have liked it.
I say that, babe. Say
I
that.
mean, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
So fair.
she probably
That's-
wouldn't have
would've
gotten
liked
pregnant,
it.
and she would have loved it.
And she would have loved it.
She would have
been like,
loved it.
sex is great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Paul versus Marty. What are your thoughts on Marty?
I mean, I don't like when she puts his legs on.
Her legs on him.
Thank you.
He's the problem until that moment.
Leg gate. Yeah.
He's the problem until that one moment. And then I go, well, it's complicated now for Marty. Because she's feeding into it. It's not just friends.
Yes. I so agree.
100%.
So right.
We talked about this recently. We had a Marty episode called It Shouldn't Have Been Marty, because like we don't see Team Marty. We don't get it. We think that they were only ever friends. He was reading too much into it. She was trying to build a friendship. He was misunderstanding what was happening until she put her freaking legs in his freaking lap.
No, I don't. You just don't do that. That's misleading. And then there were people being like, no, I put my legs on my guy friends all the time. And I'm like, well,
they're probably in love with you.
They probably think you love them.
They're at least thinking about it.
Yes.
There's no way you can. I'm sorry. That is just not something you do.
No.
That's not something you do.
No. If I was sitting with a girl, I have a lot of friends that are women. If they put their legs on me, I go, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
What is this? What is happening?
Yeah. And they had been clearly sitting like that for some time. They were cozy, comfortable.
Yeah.
And I also feel bad for him when they go out to dinner.
Oh, so bad.
He's trying so hard. I've done like shows at Ivy League schools, and it is always like I like talk to the audience, and they're like, there's a disparity between the rich people that go and the smart people that go.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
And so it doesn't mean that the rich people aren't smart. It's just that there are people that like are there based on scholarship and merit alone.
Yeah.
And Marty feels like that.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So I have to be Team Marty there.
Yeah. Totally understand.
Oh, because one of the most savage moments I think in the whole show, other than when Emily reads Shira for filth at that party, is when Marty says, I like you, Rory. And she looks at him and says, I like Logan. Oh. It's just, you didn't have to sell him.
No. And when they go out to dinner, the four of them.
Yeah. Oh, later in the series when he has the girlfriend. Oh, God.
We talk about that next week.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And because we have a dates episode next week, and we already recorded it. But yeah, we talked about how that's like one of the worst dates on the whole show is Logan being like they knew each other.
Which like I get it.
I get it, but at the same time,
I would tell
like,
too. It'd be like, why are we putting up with the charade if you guys were just friends?
Yeah, I feel bad for I feel bad for Marty, but he should never have lied.
Yeah,
no,
totally.
Yeah,
I completely agree. Okay, I feel like this is also an easy one. Mm-hmm. Dean versus Jess.
I got you, Jess.
Jess. Yeah. Yes, it's Jess.
Which one has better hair?
I like Dean's hair.
Okay,
I like Dean's hair. I think Dean. If they had the same personality, Dean is more of a hunk to me.
Yeah, Jared Padalecki, man. Like. I don't know though, Milo.
Have you seen what's that other show that he was in?
Supernatural.
This Is Us. Have you watched This Is Us?
I watched the first like half of the first season, and it was a great show. Yeah. And my mom was obsessed. She loved that show. It's definitely a show for moms.
It's a big mom show.
Big mom show.
That and Highlander.
Oh, I've never seen Highlander. Oh God, I believe you.
Every woman over 50 loves Highlander. That's like their guilty pleasure show.
This Is Us made me afraid of crock pots, I will say.
Oh yeah, because of the fire. Yeah,
I do love my crock pot, but there is like I'm always like, is it unplugged?
Oh, I know.
Always, yeah.
But I heard it was a really good show, and as someone who really appreciates like storytelling in television, I loved that they went back and forth between like, you know,
I did
the
love
past and the present.
Time switch, yeah,
the time switch and kind of going back to certain moments in time. You know, of course, that Milo's character is going to die because of what the first episode and the pilot brings you, but you're watching him in real time. You're falling in love with him and the way he loves his family, the way he loves his wife, everything in between. And I was like, this is brilliant storytelling. So for that alone, I was like, I need to get on board with the show. Now that the show is like in its completion, I'm a binger. I will probably binge it one day. But while it was airing live, I tried to like get myself into it, and I got into it and I fell off.
Yeah, it makes sense. It happens.
Yeah. But I heard he was amazing. They got a lot of them got really brilliant accolades from doing
Sterling
the
K.
show.
Brown.
Sterling K. Brown. Yeah.
It makes me so happy that he went on to do another great show.
I know, me too.
Yeah, it makes me feel great because I thought he was a great actor in the moment.
He's so good.
Yeah.
I wonder, and we're actually going to LA in a couple weeks, and we're going to be on the carpet covering the Amy Sherman Palladino multiverse event. Have you heard about this?
No. Oh my God. Congratulations. This is so
Thank
exciting
you.
for you two.
Thank you. We're freaking out. We're freaking out.
Okay. And
We're low-key freaking out. But there's an Amy Sherman Palladino multiverse event that's happening where she's talking about, like, they're honoring her work in Gilmore Girls, Maisel, and her new show Etoile that's coming out, I assume, this year.
I thought it was next year.
It might be coming out next year.
We'll let you know.
We'll definitely let you know. But one of the questions that's kind of burning on people's minds about Milo is, like, was he always going to be this character of Jess where he leaves Rory at the end of season 3? Or did you guys do that because you were doing the spinoff with him and it never worked out? And then when that didn't work out, when did he book Heroes? Were you going to bring him back in, or was he just already deep into Heroes? I know Heroes didn't come out until 2006, but still, it's like, did he already have that contract and that's why you didn't bring him back in? I have so many questions about his trajectory, his character, and just like how actor availability impacts the stories that you tell.
yeah, wow, that's you two deserve to be there. With thoughts like that, you deserve to be on the red carpet there. Oh my God.
We'll only have like a minute or so with them, so like we won't have a lot of time to dive into this in the way we would want to. But yeah, we have a long list of questions, and we can only really ask like
I'm
one
really
or two.
going to narrow it down.
If I was her and you asked me that question, I'll go, here's my number. We'll talk later.
I hope so. We can
Or
only
she's
hope
like,
for that.
y'all are talking about Gilmore Girls every day.
Every day.
What?
Are you okay? Yeah, we're expecting her to ask us if we're mentally okay, to which the answer is no, but
No.
we are having a great time. But yeah, I think Jess just in general is an incredible character. He's much more complex than Dean. Even if you are on Team Dean, I do think that there's an argument to be made that, like, Jess's character is so well-rounded and so excitable, you know?
Tara, did you just make an argument for Team Dean?
No.
We sell merch that says Dean sucks on it, and it really comes from Miss Tara herself. She went viral on TikTok for hating Dean, and
The
that's
anti-Dean queen.
Yeah,
I just think he sucks. Anyway.
He does. And oh God, we don't need to talk. I hate my Dean. Fuck off, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I hate
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Now, this one, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on. Logan versus Tristan.
Great. I think that Tristan is young Logan, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And I do like that Rory kissed Tristan at the party. I do think that was a fun plot point. I think Tristan was kind of acted cool around it. I don't think he like acted weird. I think he showed up in a good way. I think Tristan was lost in his teenage years from parents that were like being too much for him, and he was like acting out. He kind of reminds me of like someone Lorelai would go for, a Christopher type.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he really does feel like in some ways young Christopher, like the rebellious nature, but really taken by Rory and who she is, because it's pulling her pigtails. That's what he's doing this whole time.
Which honestly, Tristan, that is hard. Tristan, I don't know. He's so. It just blows my mind that he was like, I like Rory sometimes. I think she's beautiful. She's just boring sometimes.
Like, Julie,
Yes.
this is what I mean. Her type is obsessed with her.
Yeah.
Like, can't stop talking to her.
Nobody
Which, like, I get it.
can meet Rory Gilmore and not fall in love with her. And we're just like, why?
Well,
That's why we were
bless
disappointed
her.
in Marty, is we wish he would have just been her friend. We wish that he would have had some other love interest that was not her, and
That they could have just been friends, and maybe they're split, their divide and their friendship is over the fact that, like, she kind of sells out to become a part of this high society life that he doesn't understand.
I love that.
Or
that he recognizes that she's kind of cosplaying in his world, that like she gets to like go to Stars Hollow and be this person, but her grandparents are paying for this, that like he is in a much different situation. His uncle is his dad. He's got a lot different family drama going on than she does.
Rory is closer to a Logan than she is to a Kirk, who has to struggle and like every day to stay afloat in Stars Hollow.
Yeah.
Totally.
His
Totally.
15,000 jobs.
Yeah.
She very much takes on that persona though of like and she did work hard to get into Yale. She didn't just skate on in.
Yes.
But she really does take on this persona of like, I'm this, poor little rich girl almost. And it's like, you rich, the word rich is in there because you do have access to wealth. You do have privilege and you need to acknowledge your privilege. And I love that Logan kind of throws that in her face.
Well, I actually might say that she she didn't skate into Harvard. She skated into Yale maybe because of
Richard's
because
connection.
of Richard legacy a little bit. But she does.
But she
deserve the
worked really
accolades.
hard to get there.
No, she's
totally.
smart.
Yes, she's
she
smart.
works hard, and we can't deny her that, but we can deny her the rest.
You know who didn't like Rory? The person who was sitting under the tree. That was the only person who didn't fall for
You're
Rory.
so right. That
You're
guy.
right.
And then also the guy in the laundry room who she asks to go out with her.
Yes. Oh, I love that plot point. That's the first time that we addressed that, like, maybe Rory's head is so big. You're talking about me?
Yes.
And he's like, no.
He's like, absolutely, I'm not.
This girl was hiding in my closet.
Yeah. No, seriously. And it's kind of, I loved watching that. I loved watching her in season 4 because she struggles to like figure out who she is now that she's not living at home. I love that she struggles to like date. This is the first time she's really been single since she was 16 years old and like people aren't falling all over her. Yeah. And I think that we all need that check every once in a while to be like, oh, right. I am not perfect. Not everybody's going to love me. And I think we all need that like ego check a little bit. And she got that until she didn't. But until Logan comes along, which how do you feel Logan versus Tristan?
I have to go Logan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Logan really
you're afraid of
loves
me?
Rory. Yes, I'm terrified of you. Logan all the way, please. No, Logan really loves her. Logan has deep love for Rory, and so much so that he like moves away from his family a little bit for her. Well, for him too. But
I actually think that Logan loved her the most in like the most toxic of ways because he never fell out of love with her and was never able to move on from her. Like, because we see him in the revival. She turned down his proposal, but they're still together. He's with someone else, but he like literally cannot let her go until she lets him go. And it's really sad, honestly. That's what we were talking about recently in the Partings episode. Is like Logan's a little bit of a coward. He has a very limited backbone. And the first girl that showed him a bit of affection beyond what other girls had shown him, he fell hard and never let go.
And how do you feel about Logan that he slept with all the bridesmaids?
That they were broken up.
I agree. I don't think he's in the wrong at all, honestly.
Whenever we talk about this, I always say that this situation feels very Olivia Rodrigo. You didn't cheat, but you're still a traitor. Like the way that you chose to go about our breakup, because they were definitely, I'm sorry, you haven't talked for months. You're not together.
Come on, Rory. Please.
Girl.
Delusional. Delusional. I haven't talked to this man in a month and a half and he's still my boyfriend.
But like, if my boyfriend and I broke up and then I found out that he spent the days after that or, weeks after that, whatever, sleeping with a bunch of people, I would be hurt. But at the same time, he didn't cheat on me.
No.
It feels like a betrayal.
Yes.
I think the real betrayal is that he let her walk into the room knowing that he had had sex with all those girls. Like, you're telling me you didn't think that she was going to be in that room, but you were going to be at the wedding with all of these girls. And at no point was she going to end up alone with these girls who you call vipers. It was on you to tell her. Well, so I don't think he was wrong in the act. I think in the act of it, it.
We can disagree with the act. We can disagree with the way that you choose to, lick your wounds. Yeah. I just think that saying you cheated on me, you really cheated on me is like, okay, wait, what? Okay.
Yeah.
We were with you, Rory.
Lululand.
We were with you until you said that.
100. He fell into his old habits too, which is like, that's how he was soothing and healing himself for years.
Yes.
And I think to your point, he would never tell her because he's a coward in that regard.
Yes.
If he had to be like, just so you know, I had sex with someone that's going to be at the wedding, he can't do that.
No. And I get that that's a scary thing to admit. Yes. Like, it's scary. I understand, but come on, be an adult.
Yeah.
Be an adult.
If you care for this girl, like,
you just
take
fought
care of
so
her.
hard to get her back. You just fought so hard to get her back. And I know that's probably one of the reasons why he didn't tell her. But
Yes.
yeah, no, we are in the camp of he didn't cheat on her. But there are people out there that think that he did. Because, I guess you did not say the words, we are broken up. But the proof is in the pudding.
No, she does.
Guys,
when he shows up at her door and it's like, then you shouldn't be in a relationship, which, by the way, you aren't.
right. I just mean to say that at like the conversation with Jess, the night with Jess, it wasn't we are breaking up in this moment.
Yeah.
We are done. We are over. There was no verbal agreement that the relationship was over. The contract was not broken. You know, we didn't get the lawyers involved, but
But if someone doesn't talk to you for a month and a half,
yeah, you're pretty much not
I assume they don't want to
together.
talk to me ever again.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where we stand on Bridesmaid Gate.
Yeah, that's where we stand on that.
Cool.
Very passionately.
So going back to the Lorelai side, Luke versus Chris.
Christopher didn't show up in the ways I wanted him to as a father. I don't understand why. Christopher had a lot of issues to deal with. His parents would have given him everything, but he still walked away from it all. I don't even like the way that Christopher and her, when they were together, how they like kept it a secret from Rory that they were going to be married. I think Lorelai is a worse person when she's with Christopher, so I have to be Team Luke.
Hell yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
We do find that they have such great chemistry, Chris and Lorelai. It's hard to deny it. It's like you look at them and you're like, wait, do I want you together? Yeah.
Sure.
No.
But a fun
They have
hookup
history.
doesn't mean a good relationship.
No.
No.
For sure.
And
Some
they
banter
see-
does not make up for the fact that he never shows up.
No, they can't just have balcony sex for the rest of their life.
Yes, you're so right. I mean, they could, but it would be very, very interesting.
I just had a new goal.
It just seems unsafe.
Something new just hit my vision board.
Forget Sex in the City.
Yeah.
Sex on the balcony is where it's at. Because listen, they
New
could.
vision board dropping tomorrow.
But there would be no emotional foundation. There's not a lot of emotional foundation there. It's rooted in like this juvenile relationship they had when they were younger.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing to let go. I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, wore the t-shirt, burned the t-shirt, and got a new t-shirt. You cannot base, I mean, sometimes those things work out, but you cannot base your decisions on feelings. I get that it's not just feelings from young love. It's also Rory, right? It's like, oh, the father of my child. Emily's constantly pushing the two of them together because she is the father of Rory. But sometimes that does not make for a good emotional foundation. But it is there with Luke until it's not. But we blame the writers.
Blame the writers.
Okay, so Max versus Rune.
Ooh, this one's hard.
This is tough.
Oh God! Should I flip a coin?
Yeah, flip a coin. If it's Rune, we're all gonna leave.
I'll stay.
I have to go Max. I think Max was a really good guy. He would have been a great partner for Lorelai.
Well, on that topic,
Yeah.
how do you feel about Luke versus Max? Let's just get right into it.
I mean, I love Luke because Luke. I have to go Luke. I know that people might. I think that what's hard is we saw more of the reality of Luke and Lorelai than the reality of Max and Lorelai. But I think they would have had problems also. And
Yeah,
we got to
totally.
see Luke's problems with her. But I think Luke really shows up and is a grounding force in a person's life who is all over the place.
Yeah. I'm realizing
And
I
I-
forgot to put in a
I know. I was
bracket
about to
here.
ask. I was like, did
I just
you
looked
get
at
to go
this
in
and
the
I was
box?
like, yeah, Luke does get to go somewhere. I
I will say,
I'll mess that up.
as it relates to Max and Luke, as far as their engagement goes, they both come out of like a source of conflict. But Max was trying to solve a problem of his own when he proposed to her. Like, okay, well, the only solution is for us to get married.
Yeah.
Whereas when Lorelai and Luke get engaged, Luke is like fighting for Rory and on behalf of Lorelai. That I think it's just a different situation for the two of them, because I'm not a big Max fan.
Sure.
I kind of think Max kind of gives me the ick. And it's just like one of those things you can't quite fully articulate. I tried to do it in a whole episode and I never really managed quite to encapsulate what it is that I don't like about him. But I think part of it is that proposal of he was like, okay, we're just going to get married.
Yeah.
And it's like, really?
Yeah. A lot of the proposals that come out of this show, we've talked about this, like are bred from conflict. You know, when you think about Max and Lorelai, Suki and Jackson, though it's honestly my favorite proposal, you know, Lorelai and Luke, even, you know, she's
Lane
dealing
and
with
Zach.
everything with Rory, Lane and Zach, and Chris, you know, even in season 1, coming to her after they have balcony sex and being like, I want to marry you. And she's like, what? Why? Like, you know, it's just a lot of proposals come from like a resolution of conflict or fixing a problem. And that's where it started, was with, honestly, with Max, was him being like, well, I can only think of one solution. We should get married. Ugh. And it's like, why is that a solution to a problem?
You can only think of one?
Points with me.
I agree.
And it was marriage?
I also think that Luke was a stepfather to Rory. He was, when one of my favorite moments in the whole show is when he gives her the necklace and she goes, this is my stepfather to be, or however she framed it. I go, this is what it is.
That's what it is. Totally. Completely.
I love that so much. That's like, because a lot of people don't like Rory's birthday episode, her 21st birthday, but I love it for those like tender moments because there's so much drama going on. And to have those sweet moments in that is so good.
Yeah.
I really
so
love
true.
that.
Okay. Back to Rory's side.
Okay.
We've got Dave v. Marty.
I have to go Dave.
Yeah. Right?
Easy choice, honestly.
And then Jess versus Logan.
So here's the battle, right?
Tell me the battle.
Logan's great, but they both have faults. Both of these characters have major faults, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I like Jess as a person more, but Logan's there for Rory more, right? So he was physically there for her more, right? He just showed up more. You are so right. Like, Jess couldn't even go to the fair with Rory.
Yeah.
But not until Dean was going to go.
Yes, which is so annoying. I hate that whole scene. I do love Dean's little sister.
I hate her.
You do?
She's one of my least favorite characters.
No, why? No,
I don't know.
You don't know?
It's just one of those things of like,
Haley hates Clara. Like, there are people in this world who she hates with a fiery, burning passion, but none more than Clara Forrester.
Okay, listen, I love her bantering with Jess in that episode because it's like when she's like, who are you? And she's like, no one. She's like, no, you're not. And he like kind of like gives him this like philosophical response to his question. I'm like, okay, Clara, I kind of love this duo, but for the most part, hate her.
So funny.
Hate this little girl. They say you can't hate children. She's fictional. Sure I can.
Such a funny character to hate the most on the show.
I know.
This poor innocent girl that just likes.
She's not innocent.
What did she do?
I don't know.
That's such a funny take. I love that.
It's great.
Just don't like her.
Well, I do think that I like where Jess landed
More
That's
than
fair.
Logan.
I really
Yeah.
like that scene when he returns and he just yells at Rory because he loves her so much. I love that. And I love that Jess followed his dreams and he did it really on his own. And he, I mean, Jess is, I have to go Jess. He's so different from who I am as a person. So maybe that's why I look at him and think he's so dreamy.
Yes, of course.
But the other part of Jess that we love so much is his relationship with Luke. Like in the episode when Luke comes to his like I guess the publishing imprint that he has, and Jess pays him back, and Luke is like, you don't have to do this, and Jess is very adamant that he's
like, yes, I do.
And just like the evolution of their relationship from them yelling at each other at the end of season 3, like you have to go, to him coming back, writing this book, like revisiting things with Luke. And then even in the revival when he's helping out with Liz and TJ, and that they really feel like a united front together. That like that's the true arc of Jess that I love the most.
He grew into a man that had like morals and respect, and like he has a code that he lives by.
Yeah. And like a respect for something that he used to not respect. Because I feel like deep down, teenage Jess really did respect Luke,
Yes.
but didn't know what to do with that. Because like there's never been anyone in his life that he felt that way towards. That I think that his evolution into outwardly showing that respect towards Luke is really what I like about him the most.
Jess
Yeah.
probably never had someone show up with nicotine gum and stuff poured out, you know?
Yeah.
Right? He probably never had that in his life. And I love that moment because that's Luke showing how much he loves Jess.
Yeah. There is, you know, when Jess shows back up in season 4, before he really goes through this evolution, while Luke is in the process of realizing his feelings for Lorelai, and he has the book and the audiobook he's listening, and he eventually gives that book to Jess. Before that happens, and like they meet TJ and we meet Liz, and Luke and Jess have kind of this altercation in the hallway where Jess is like, you have to get in everybody's business, and everything that we do, if we fuck up, we let you down. I actually do think that there's truth to that. Like there was a lot of growing that Luke needed to do in that relationship as well, because he didn't know what he was doing. He was basically being a dad for the first time before, you know, it was kind of almost a trial run for everything that was about to happen with April, though she's a lot easier than Jess was when he was a teenager. But I feel like he was really, really hard on Jess about going to school. And I know that that came from a place of love, but he didn't see that this kid was like, I don't want to be in school. I want to work. And we talked about this on the show before, that like school is important. Don't get me wrong. But there is also something to be said about kids who are just like, I just want to work. And as someone who, you know, Luke was the kind of person who graduated from school and then immediately started opening his own business, and he valued hard work. And to kind of not see that in Jess is one of the faults that I wish that Luke could have maybe come to that conclusion and been like, oh, I am helping you, kind of similar to Emily. Like, I am helping you, but I'm only helping you my way. I'm not looking at you and seeing what you need. And I kind of enjoy when Jess throws that at Luke. He's like, you make it so that when people let you down, it gives you license to tell them how much they have disappointed you. And that's not fair to me. And I was like, wow, I'm invested. I'm here. That's the relationship I care about now. Though I love Jess and Marie, Luke and Jess.
Oof. I
Huge.
will, to defend Luke, I think Luke just wanted a better life for Jess than what was his
sure.
own, just to defend Luke in that.
And that's what most
Totally.
parents, that's so
Yes,
parental of him
yes.
to want that.
So parental,
But
very on brand.
It is like Jess, when he stepped into his power, it wasn't at school. And he was so smart.
That's what Rory said.
And that must have been the most frustrating thing for Luke and Rory, of like how intelligent he was.
Seeing his potential.
One thing we never need from this universe is to someone write a book and pretend it's Jess's book, because no one ever needs to read that, because I'm sure that it would be bad and we would just be judging Jess. Just pretending he has a good novella is so much better.
It is.
Yes.
I'm like, I want to pretend. I don't even know what
The
it's about.
subsect.
Yes.
But
Mariano.
I love
you
that
know
they
it's a
never
love
bring it
letter,
up.
Rory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We never find out what it's about. There's something really cool about that, because we don't need to know.
No, but
don't need to
thematically
know.
it's about Rory Gilmore. There's no doubt in my
You
mind.
think so?
Yes. It is like a apology tour for Rory Gilmore
Oh,
from the inner mind of Jess Mariano. That's just
Could be.
That's
But we'll
that's
never
just
know.
we'll never know. Thank God.
Well, on the topic of Luke v. Jess, I do feel like we are about to get that, because going Dave v. Jess, how do you feel?
Jess.
Yeah,
Jess.
I get that.
Yeah.
Dave's a great man,
Great.
but if we had
We
to
never
put,
saw him become a man.
but I was going to say, if we had to put Dave and Jess up against each other as they are in season 3, how would you feel? Before we see the evolution of Jess.
Dave, because Dave is showing up. He's really there. We just don't get enough Dave for me to put. It's like an athlete that played one season. Who knows if he'll be the LeBron James, you know?
Yeah.
Just to bring it to
Could be,
March
but we'll never
Madness
know.
vibes.
Yes,
Just to
of
bring it back to the
course.
March Madness of it all.
Basketball. Yes. We don't talk enough about basketball. But you said let's put Jess and Dave up against each other, and I was like, God, Adam Brody and Milo Ventimiglia in a
Icons.
comedy together.
Or playing
I need
basketball
it.
together. I'm going to
Or
see
playing
it.
basketball one-on-one. Oh my gosh, that's what we should have done. Which one of these would be the best basketball player?
Well, that's why I asked at the beginning, because I was worried that's what the March Madness bracket was.
hilarious.
You
Who
thought
would win
that
in a
the two of
basketball
us-
tournament? I'm obsessed.
We're bringing you a basketball tournament?
Dean would be the winner.
Of course.
It would be Dean.
Of course.
He's tall.
An athlete.
Jess a short king, you know, sometimes.
Yeah, he'd be a fighter. I could see him being like, speaking to Sex and the City, I could see him being like Steve. Like, he really wants to play basketball and he is totally going to try to make that half court shot. He probably won't, but we stand a short king. We really do.
I love Steve.
I do too.
I think he's one of the
Team
best characters.
Steve,
Yes.
he is. I
Does he
love
play basketball?
him. Yeah, he tries. He tries to play basketball.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
It's
Miranda's
very fun.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen some of Sex and the City, but I've mostly seen the Sex and the City movie like endlessly. That's my favorite.
It's so good. Big Steve arc in that movie.
Yeah.
Big Steve arc. Okay. Luke versus Jess. This is tough.
They're so different yet similar.
And I do feel like Jess learned a lot of how to be a good man from Luke. So what came first, the chicken or the egg? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
God.
Luke came first.
Yes. What came first? Well,
Luke.
age-wise.
By birth, it is Luke.
No. I mean by these standards, it was Luke.
Yeah.
Fair.
I have to go Luke. I have to go Luke. I know it's probably the most basic thing to have Luke win the whole thing. I just really think how patient he was, how much he loved Lorelai, how much he loved Rory, how even when they offered him money to expand the business, he's like, that's not the life I want. What I want is to have this, honor my father and to provide for the community that I'm in. Even when he bends rules, how they'll want him to decorate and he won't decorate, but then Lorelai wants it and he'll get on board a little bit with stuff. Just that love is so beautiful, and I think there were some mistakes with the writing that happens, but Luke for me is, you don't get a much better ideal man on television, in my opinion.
I love
Yeah.
that. I really
Me
do.
too. And I feel like
I was going to say we got to remain true to the sweatshirt.
you showed up with his name on your chest. There was no way that wasn't going to happen. But I
Yeah.
feel like when it comes to Luke and Jess, like the juxtaposition for me is that Jess kind of had that idea of like, I've won you. Now I don't need to continue trying to win you, that like we're done with that. Whereas Luke kind of had that same sort of idea of like, I'm with you now. I don't have to do all these things. But he continued to show up and do whatever Lorelai wanted to do because that's what he wanted to do. He just wanted to make her happy.
That
so I think
line.
that's really
I want to do, well, I don't know, you two probably know that line, but when he says that thing, I just want to be there with you doing it, you know?
Yeah.
from season 6 when she kind of like sends him off fishing and he didn't want to. He wanted to just
He's like,
hang out
I
with
have
her.
fun with you. I have
Yeah.
fun. And I appreciate the sentiment of Lorelai being like, I don't want to make you do everything that
No.
I do. I understand that sentiment. Being in a relationship, you want them to have their own experiences, but at the same time, he wants to be there.
He spent so many years not being there, or
Yeah.
just being a peripheral, like a secondary character in her life, and all he wanted was to be her person. So of course, when he gets that opportunity, he doesn't want to walk away from that to go fishing.
Totally.
Yeah.
I so agree.
It reminds me of in season 7 in one of the first episodes when he kind of like acquiesces to the fact that they're not going to be together anymore and he's just going to go back to being the guy who pours her coffee, because it's like, I'd rather pour your coffee than be nothing to you is kind of the idea that he has there. And I have a lot of qualms with Luke because one of my favorite seasons is season 6. And so growing up watching season 6 because of Mr. Huntsberger, when you see Luke, you're like, what is this guy? Like, who is he? And so I for a long time didn't like him.
Yeah.
But rewatching this through Patreon, I fell back in love with Luke.
Yeah, you have to endear yourself to Luke. It's true. And on that note, I know that you just met us today, Sebastian, but who do you think? So I did this March Madness, May Madness for Haley last time. So Haley was actually the one answering these questions, not me. Who do you think ended up in the winner's
It was the
circle?
same bracket.
Same exact bracket.
I think Logan went all the way.
You know what's really interesting? He did not. Alex won.
What? What?
That's what everyone said.
Round 1, Luke, gone. She was like, no, it's Alex.
Tell me.
That's so fair. I could tell you.
Tell me what happened.
I think that we were in the phase of watching Alex, Mr. Charlie Swan, that he just seemed like such a good fit for her. He was a single parent. He was opening a coffee shop, and he like
insane. This is insane. Go ahead.
he was basically Luke, but wasn't Luke. And I don't know, it just seemed like they fit really well. I can't.
Sebastian, you are all of our listeners. They were all like,
you were in the comment section being like, what the fuck? Fire this girl. Hire someone else.
God, that's unbelievable. And he went all the way?
He went all the way. He passed Logan.
Dave, Jess, went past them all. It was actually Rune v. Alex was where it came down to. No, it didn't. I don't remember who it came down to.
I think it came down to Max and Alex.
No, I wouldn't have had Max. I think it was Jess.
No. On Lorelai's side, I think it came down to Max and Alex.
And so it was Jess versus Alex was the final one.
I think I had Jess, or was it Dave?
It was Dave.
I think it was Dave.
Dave versus Alex. But 2 characters that we don't know a ton about.
Yeah. And I think
2 characters you can make a lot up about inside your head.
And I think that's the thing is because we were presented with these like perfect characters, and like you're like, okay, yeah, no faults. only positives. Like only great qualities. We've never learned anything bad about them. Except for the fact that Alex just literally disappeared. Like without a trace.
A big
true crime documentary on its way. Because we don't know what happened to him. But yeah, I will say, I feel like I need to make a public apology right now that was very wild of me.
Insane.
It was kind of insane. I do need to revisit that episode and like go back.
We should totally listen to it because I do remember being like, are you sure?
I don't remember my reasoning. I truly don't. Like when you asked that, I was like, that's so fair. I should be able to tell you exactly why that is. But I've actually said a lot.
We've said a lot over the last 3 years. To be
remember.
honest, I don't really remember a lot of it. Sometimes I just say things and then someone is like, well, you said this. And I'm like,
that's so
I don't remember
cool.
that.
That's so cool that you have access to past conversations of mine that I don't remember.
We've changed our minds a lot on this show.
Yeah.
You have
and
to.
that is the thing.
You have to.
And we are very, because like our normal podcast episodes, like Gilmore to Say, is not a recap. And so when we're going through our recap that is on Patreon, it's kind of like whatever's happening there, I feel very entrenched in and very like of the moment that like that really influences how I'm feeling here. And I think that maybe we had just come off of Alex and we were like, oh my God, he was perfect for her. Because he really was. He really was a good fit for her. Until he just disappeared, truly, without any explanation as to where he went. So,
but maybe we'll do
Sebastian
it over
is
again.
Literally broken.
I mean, that
It was not the
unbelievable.
answer you were expecting.
No.
That's beautiful. I love that.
It was, yeah, she definitely had her reasons. Haley comes to the table with her reasons, but it was a very silly, very hilarious result. And so that's why I was really excited to revisit it with you because it was different and it was the
she
same
was like,
guys.
I need someone sane
I need someone
to come up with
to do this.
actual thoughts.
Yeah. But I'm glad we got to play. Luke is a fantastic answer.
Thank you.
And
Luke is the right answer.
it is probably the right answer. But also just in general, we're so glad that we got to have a conversation with you today. We had so much fun with you. You're amazing.
I've been smiling this whole time. I haven't gotten to talk this much about Gilmore Girls in forever. This was awesome for me.
You're welcome back anytime. I'm sure our listeners are going
Anytime.
to eat up our episodes. Listen, when a man talks about Gilmore Girls, the audience goes feral. They're
Really?
like,
do. That's actually something I wanted to ask you about is that I feel like a lot of the times people refer to this as like, this is a girly show because it has girl in the title. So like men don't really watch it. One of the first men that we had on the podcast was We also found him on TikTok, on social media. He was watching Gilmore Girls for the first time with his wife, who's a really big fan, and he just fell head over heels in love with the show, and now is like a big rewatcher of the show. And was just surprised to find out that this was like seen as a girly show. What do you feel about the perception of that?
I don't see it as a girly show at all. I think just because we have women as main characters, we can't. It's not a girly show. I think it's a show about a small town and growing up.
Yeah. And relationships.
It's as I said before, it's a comfy comedy, and I think that we need more comfiness, especially like I go outside. I live in Brooklyn. Things that get people are yelling. The city moves, and so this felt so comforting to me, and I'm really happy that I got to experience this as a kid too, because it didn't even cross my mind it was a girly show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and
So
that is my taste in TV a little bit. Someone might say girly shows, but I don't care. I enjoy it. It's comforting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that there's something really special about men who grew up watching Gilmore Girls. A friend of mine, her husband, same thing. He just grew up in a household where they were watching Gilmore Girls all the time. And he, from what she has shared with me, like he really attributes a lot of the positive masculinity and like the ways that he can implement that into his relationships with the women in his life and just people in his life in general to that show and to what that show raised him on. I kind of love that.
Yeah. And as it is the 25th anniversary of Gilmore Girls this year, this October, something that we're wanting to find out from all of our guests is what they think the legacy of Gilmore Girls is all these years later. The fact that it's still so relevant, that so many people are still watching it. It's still one of the top streamed shows. What would you say is the legacy of Gilmore Girls?
That we yearn for community.
That's
brilliant.
So perfect.
Yeah. No, you're so right.
We just all want a community that we feel seen in and that we are there to support each other in.
I love it.
That's
community
so perfect.
is everything. It really
Immediately, I want to cry. A community that has just the silliest events you've ever heard of in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Sebastian, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have to have you back for laughs.
Yes.
I would love
for more laughs, more conversation.
More laughs. I love your laugh. That's one of my favorite things.
It's one of my favorite
about
things
this
about
episode.
you. Yeah, seriously.
Thank you.
I love it. And I can't wait to see your comedy. I can't wait to see you in person. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It'll be nice. And whenever you're in New York, please let me know. You could come out to a show or
whatever. Haley can come with me. It'll be a lot of fun.
And congratulations on being in an Academy Award winning film.
Yes, exactly. We're so
amazing.
So cool.
Thank you. That is thanks. This is beautiful. Thank you so much for having me. This was such a blast.
Absolutely.
And I'm so happy we got to really deep dive. And
us too.
I was nervous before, but you made me feel really comfortable, and I was so happy to do this.